Hello, how's it going? In today's video, I'm covering a secret mission and the Gurubashi War from Chronicle Volume 2. So let's go! For a time, King Baratheon's defensive strategy against the trolls worked fine, but it wasn't brilliant. Unfortunately, a raiding party of Gurubashi managed to slip past Stormwind's patrols into Westfall. 3 towns were burned to the ground. Soldiers eventually caught up with them and killed them, but it was too late for dozens of humans. They died, painfully, and Stormwind's populace weren't all that happy about it. Lords and nobles met with the king to discuss a response, and the king decided that de-escalation was still the best option. He bolstered the army, but only to strengthen the patrol lines. There would be no offensive launched on the Gurubashi. Again, Prince Llane was all like, "You what, mate? Stormwind's citizens have died, and you still want to have a bloody tea party with them?" The king and the prince argued in front of the royal court, and it was probably a bit awkward for everyone. Llane was furious. "My dad's a bloody coward." Most of the soldiers, including Lothar, felt the same way. They were itching for revenge, but they wouldn't defy the king. But Lothar pointed out that if the two of them were to disobey the king, it's not like he'd order the execution of his own son and a high-ranking knight. And Llane was like, "Seems legit. I like your thinking." The secret mission into Gurubashi lands would go unnoticed by both trolls and humans. But mere steel wouldn't be enough. They needed something more. Something like Medivh. He's a guardian after all, so he's meant to protect the land from evil. That's literally his job. Medivh was reluctant at first. He didn't know the limits of his power, but then he thought, whatevs, and accepted. In truth, he'd never been in battle or slain an enemy, and he kinda wanted to. So they set off, forging beyond Stormwind's borders. Medivh's magic shrouded them, so they made it to Stranglethorn Vale without incident. They targeted a Gurubashi warlord named jok'non, who dwelled in a ziggurat in central Stranglethorn. The plan was, kill him, quickly, and then run away. Problem was, jok'non and his followers had been experimenting with blood magic. They'd learned this from their lower, Hakar the Soulflayer. When they reached the camp and battle erupted, it was a little bit worse than they'd anticipated. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. Medivh faced jok'non himself, against a magic he'd never seen before. This dark power almost overwhelmed Medivh. He was forced to abandon his apprehension and unleash his full power. The resulting spell destroyed every single troll within the ziggurat. Their howls of agony could be heard across all of Stranglethorn. Llane and Lothar were like, Jesus! They'd seen death before, but this was just bloody awful. Even Medivh himself was a bit confused. He'd never been taught that spell. Where the balls had it come from? And also, it didn't seem entirely powered by arcane magic. He was ever so slightly disturbed. Meanwhile, the Gurubashi came together under the banner of the slain warlord's son, zan'non. They'd put 2 and 2 together and decided it was most definitely Stormwind who'd killed their mates. Although it had been centuries since the Gurubashi tribes had fought as one, Stormwind was completely unprepared. There were more trolls than you can shake a stick at. Stormwind's southern defensive lines crumbled, and any civilians that couldn't escape were butchered, their teeth, bones and ears taken as trophies. Lovely. The Gurubashi had one objective: burn Stormwind to the ground. King Baratheon recalled all forces back to the city. This was going to be one hell of a battle. As the trolls approached, Llane informed his father of what he and his friends had done, and his dad responded with words that we've probably all heard from our parents at some point in our lives. "I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed." Ugh. As far as Baratheon was concerned, it was pretty pointless to punish them, because they were all about to die anyway. When the trolls reached the gates of Stormwind, the soldiers kinda soiled themselves. zan'non had learned some of his father's tricks, and he transformed trolls into hulking berserkers. Possessed with otherworldly strength, the mutated giants climbed Stormwind's walls and proceeded to rip soldiers to pieces. There were huge losses on both sides, and the king decided it was going to take a miracle to break this siege, so he mounted a desperate counterattack with his personal guard. The aim was to get to zan'non, cut his head off, and they almost managed it, but they didn't. Baratheon died, and Llane was like, "No, Daddy, no!" The prince was overcome with guilt over his reckless mission into Stranglethorn Vale, but he knew the city was now looking to him to lead. He went up to Medivh and was like, "You remember that spell you did the other day? Well, do it again." It was the only way to spare the city. Medivh agreed. He was a little bit scared, but also a little bit excited. Medivh stood on the ramparts and rained fire and ice down on his enemies. He froze some of them in their tracks. He incinerated others from within, blasted many to pieces. At some point he thought, geez, I'm purposely trying to make their deaths as excruciating as possible. And oh my god, I'm enjoying it. By the time he was done, the city still stood, but the Gurubashi did not. Only a handful of them escaped, but the vast bulk were pretty dead. Stormwind citizens mourned their losses, but praised their heroes. Medivh was seen as the realm's greatest defender. Llane was welcomed as the new king. Lothar was raised as one of the military's top commanders. The people bloody loved them, but they didn't know that Medivh and his friends had been responsible for this attack in the first place. Many innocents had died due to their recklessness. Medivh decided he didn't really have the will or the mental fortitude to control his guardian birthright. That crazy woman in his dreams kept mentioning a place called Karazhan. Maybe he should go and check that out. And we're leaving it there! That seemed a bit more violent than usual. People getting ripped apart and stuff. was kind of fun. In the next Volume 2 video, Medivh goes to Karazhan, meets the woman from his dreams, and then starts to become a bit of a dick. As always, thank you very much to those of you who have become patrons. Your support means a lot. Links in the description for anyone that wants to check out the Patreon page or support the channel in that way. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, all of that bollocks. And all that's left to say is, thanks very much for watching, and see ya!